Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains August 8th through the 14th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Cairo. One of the largest cities in Africa is still as captivating as it was in the days of the explorers. We leave for the south of the capital, a few kilometers from the famous pyramids of the Giza Plateau, to Saqqara, the mythical necropolis of the land of the pharaohs. At the foot of the mysterious pyramid of King Teti, a team led by Dr. Zahi Hawass has been digging under the sand for weeks. Unique Gar. There is always something to discover as soon as you take a step. That's why it is one of the most fascinating sites in Egypt. Saqqara has an incredible richness. These excavations could unravel the last secrets of the Egyptian civilization's way of life and funerary rites from the New Kingdom, i.e. 1,550 years before our era. Expeditions like these are costly and archaeologists will only have 6 months, from October 2020 to March 2021, to unveil the treasure. Fascinating discoveries. After a month of excavations, the team of Egyptian Egyptologists and workers makes one of the first major discoveries of the mission. At the bottom of a newly excavated well there are 3 coffins, one of which is quite unique because it is perfectly preserved. It is that of a child. The director of the excavations, Issam Sihab, takes us to the niche. We come across one of the most important wells of this site. We emptied it, removed all the debris that was there, and once removed, discovered inside the entrance to a tumble. The well is now cleared. Dr. Issam descends for the first time. We have found a child's coffin at the top of the burial well. It is in good condition. It is priceless. Small in size, this coffin was carved from a single piece of wood about 3,500 years ago. The face is a representation of the child, who may still be inside. Now the first thing we'll do is scan the coffin. Then we'll record it and store it in the storeroom for study. This is the beginning of a long scientific investigation. We need to find out who the other people in the grave are and, in particular, why this child was given a burial as beautiful as that of an adult. The small wooden coffin is kept in the antiquities storehouse for further analysis. A secret place to store and safely study every vestige, whose value is incalculable. The necropolis of Saqqara is located on a plateau overlooking the ancient city of Memphis. So it is quite far from the Nile, in the middle of the desert. It is full of funerary monuments, there are pyramids, but also a significant number of tombs excavated in the rock. This site was active for at least 3,500 or 3,600 years. And not only as a cemetery, there were also temples, monasteries and churches. Initially, they probably buried the elite, but over time, many ordinary people also had the opportunity to be buried there. Excavating in Saqqara would therefore allow to find remains of much of Egyptian society buried around one of the treasures of the necropolis. The oldest pyramid in history, built almost 5,000 years ago, that of Pharaoh Djoser. Nearby is another pyramid, that of the mysterious Pharaoh Teti, founder of the 6 dynasties. Around it could be found hundreds of private tombs, but few archaeologists have conducted excavations here. However, until the end of ancient Egypt, Teti retained an amazing aura for the deceased. She had an incredible aura, so the wealthy people wanted to be buried by her side, even several centuries after her death. The Egyptians didn't care about their houses or their lives. Do you realize what he might have hidden under the sand? As of today, the operators will be busy 6 days a week to excavate the entire area. This morning in November 2020, we will have to analyze the coffin of a child that Dr. Issam has found. An X-ray could reveal more about the cause of his death, as long as the coffin is not empty. Due to its size, it could be a child of about 5 years. Dr. Sahar Selim, professor of radiology at the Faculty of Medicine in Cairo, has moved to the excavation site. Her scanner will provide us with live information. We can see many details about sex, age, or diseases, perhaps the cause of death and mummification. A portable X-ray system has been installed in the antique store, where the child's casket has been kept. To protect themselves from X-rays, scientists wear lead suits, unaesthetic, but very effective. The archaeologists have first brushed and stabilized the coffin to prevent it from deteriorating during its handling. And the truth is that I think it could be a girl because of the face and the decoration. We'll see if it's a girl or a boy. We'll also know how old he is. How many does Dr. Zahi think? Around the age of 6, 5 or 6, he fills the whole coffin. The X-ray system works with an X-ray sensitive digital plate that instantly returns the image to the computer. Dispara.veil.veil. Dr. Zahi, this is the coffin. This whole part of here is empty. The coffin is not full at all, only a small part. We don't know what it is. Let's see. Let's see what's here. Careful, shoot. Perfect. It seems a fragment of the skull. But it's open, in pieces. That's what you usually see in very young children, newborns. A newborn? Yes, it'll be 8 or 9 months old and maybe it was premature. Therefore, the baby would have died a few days after birth. The team decides to open the coffin for more information. Heaven damn it. It's true. Totally. She could be 9 months old. Infant mortality was very high at that time. This baby was doomed, probably had an infection. It was a girl, unnamed, whose mummy has been spoiled over the centuries. The discovery and story of this baby is extraordinary. This Promethean mission is fascinating to see how much the ancient Egyptians cared about small children or slightly older children. Today Dr. Hawass arrived very early at the site. It's been 9 weeks since the excavation began. There are the rules. Zahid Hawass, dressed in his mythical hat and legendary cowboy shirt, wants to be the first to discover the treasure. No one has ever entered this grave. The environment is narrow, poorly ventilated, and from the surface can fall stones and sand. We are in a very narrow well that descends to almost 11 meters. Here these people were buried, in these coffins. All these paintings, mummies, statues, ceramics, are wonderful. These coffins see the light for the first time since ancient Egypt. The tomb was full of sand and completely enclosed. The coffins do not belong to the same family, nor surely to the same times. We are in a shared niche, which allowed middle-class and wealthy families to be buried here. As there was not enough space to build tombs for all these people, they thought it was better to dig wells, and inside they placed the coffins whose paintings replaced the carved scenes on the walls of the tombs. In Saqqara the space was a low joy. The mere fact of being buried near the Pyramid of Teti indicates that these deceased were not of low class. Instead, the majestic tombs of Saqqara or Luxor were reserved for the elite or the very rich. Inside the discovered well, Zali is caught by a small wooden statuette placed next to the coffins. He is one of the 3 gods of the triad of Memphis and Saqqara, Nefertum. This is the god Nefertum. The triad of Saqqara were Ptah, Segund, and Nefertum. If you notice, it's the face of a child, precious, it's a god. And I think he was accompanying one of these people to protect her in the afterlife. The gods were often grouped into triads starting in the New Kingdom, but especially in the Lower Age. The presence of Nefertum, one of the gods of the Saqqara triad, allows us to date the nearest coffins from the New Empire. For the deceased, these statues and other amulets had a very special function. Many of them had to serve as protective amulets, as the body had to remain intact to function properly in the afterlife. The ultimate goal is to become God, to become Osiris. Osiris. He is the god of resurrection, of regeneration, and to be one with Osiris means to enter successfully into eternal life. Osiris is undoubtedly the most famous ancient Egyptian god. He is the one who revives the deceased to enter the afterlife. The coffin is his boat to the new world. Zai Hawass has been studying the contents of the tomb we are in for hours. He must choose the coffin that will be climbed to the surface to be studied and then open it. The operation is delicate. Here are some paintings. Horus. And here you have inscriptions. Okay, enough, because you have to take it out. Okay, we can't open it here, we'll open it in the tent. Rai Saver, come, Mahmoud, and 2. The downhill operation takes several minutes. The basket has been custom designed to accommodate the coffin and protect it from impacts. The wood could break during the climb and that would be a disaster for the team. Fix the hook. The ascent begins. It is the most delicate step. My God. After more than an hour, the coffin finally comes out. It has been 3,000 years without seeing the light of day. It is a precious vestige of the low period made of wood, whose decoration is perfectly preserved. We bring them back to life. These people, one day, walked this earth. They had a life. To think that these people were alive, that is the reality of archaeology. Our job is to get interested in the people of the past, because wherever we set foot here, we walk on these people of the past, on an ancient civilization. But the operatives who work here have been trained from father to son for generations. On Friday, the day of rest, they gather here in Saqqara to play and converse, as surely their forefathers did in ancient Egypt. The collection of antiques. This is where it will be carefully documented and preserved before being opened. The first part of the work is to prepare specific solutions, often based on alcohol, to restore and clean the original colors. Conservation work is essential. Without conservation there is no excavation. For Egyptologists, coffins are made of wood, sarcophagi are made of stone. Therefore, what we have in front of us is a coffin. But what does it contain and for whom was it intended? Since the Middle Kingdom, the coffin no longer represents the features of the deceased, but its deified version. Egyptian coffins are designed so that the deceased looks like a god and becomes one. Hence, the face, usually made separately and adapted, is surrounded by a very voluminous divine wig. Therefore, before opening a coffin, archaeologists find it almost impossible to know what is inside. And sometimes the surprise is huge. This coffin brought from the main well a few days ago will undergo a first inspection. Dr. F. It's amazing to study the remains of these people. They contain their true story. Bones always tell the truth, they never lie. This New Kingdom coffin comes from the first well. On the sides is the name of a woman, Maud Mida. But the bones tell a completely different story that happened here 3,500 years ago. There were 2 skeletons in the coffin. Yes, that's right, yes. It's not one body, but 2, which were deposited in this wooden coffin. According to the bones, this is an 18-year-old man and a woman in her 40s. This is the teenager. He is less than 18 years old. We can tell the age if we observe the growth in the bone fusion. Once again, the analysis of human remains allows us to go back in time and unveil its mystery. Humorists have similar characteristics. It means that they are from the same family, perhaps a son and his mother. It could be. As a medical examiner at the scene of the crime, Dr. F can also determine the causes of death. She has a problem in the lumbar vertebrae, a serious disease. The sacrum has the same infection, the same injuries. Both belong to a middle-class family. However, the numerous jewels that were put into the coffin to accompany the deceased show some wealth. I found this beautiful asheptai, as you can see, with a very nice inscription. It was under the pelvis of the woman, who had significant injuries, to care for before the great journey. Dr. F's discovery illustrates an amazing practice, that of placing 2 individuals in the same coffin at 2 different times to reunite them in paradise. With her words and protective drawings, this coffin represents those that were designed from the new empire. These texts have been extracted from what is commonly known as the Book of the Dead. Cough. The Book of the Dead is a legacy of the ancient empire, of what is known as the pyramid texts. In the Middle Kingdom they began to add the texts of the sarcophagi and became accessible to everyone, both to the pharaoh and to ordinary people. Over there. Already in the New Kingdom, many Egyptians had access to those spells to write them on their coffins, but also on a support of easy transport, the papyrus. The only extract from the Book of the Dead of this mission was found during the first excavations and is extraordinary. Emblem meticulously. Dr. Miza, an Egyptologist specializing in hieroglyphs, shows her results to Zahi Hawass, who was fascinated. We found it in well number 1. There are 4 coffins coming from that well and I try to find the person related to this papillo. The first one is here, after Osiris. Good. And here, in this panel, Osiris, Bukave and his sister Par. In these papyri wrote with black and red ink. Yes, the beginning of the papyrus always comes with red ink. And the end of the papyrus. Yes, the end too. Thanks to the red and black inks, Dr. Miza can locate the beginning of the papyrus because the red represents the beginning of a chapter. They brought me 2 coffins and a papyrus fragment from well number 1. After a while, I discovered a name on the papyrus, Bujas, and I know he is the owner of one of the 4 coffins. This work brings together the scattered burial of the unknown Bujaev, who was undoubtedly a very rich man to afford so many magical elements that accompanied him to paradise. Ikatas are multiple. To learn the basics, Dr. Maisel has studied them for 10 years. Only our cameras have been able to film this extraordinary moment. Always before opening the lid of a coffin, my heart beats at full speed. But there is nothing to indicate that it is still present and in good condition. And below are the 4 sons of Horus, Nephthys on the other side, and Isis. It's incredible. But because of the weight of the coffin, and the beauty of the decoration and the paintings, the Omnia seems to be still inside. Come on. The Mumia.it's like the mummies in the movies. Although it is darkened by the passage of time, it is a spectacular mummy, since it is in perfect condition. It tells us the care with which the funeral priest wrapped the deceased. First by the limbs, before covering the whole body. It is very well preserved. The mummification is perfect. They covered her whole body with linen. This wealthy woman, whose cause of death remains a mystery, sees the light of day for the first time in millennia. The passage to eternal life. In ancient Egypt is presented to the deceased Anti-Osiris, the supreme god of the underworld. Therefore, his remains must be presentable thanks to a fascinating process, mummification. The mummification ritual is performed to transform the body into a divine and immutable element, something like a statue. The idea was to purify the body by letting it dry first. Thanks to this process, the meat has often been preserved. Originally, only the king, that is, the supreme elite, the living god, could be mummified. Mummification follows a very complex and lengthy ritual. Gradually the elite and then the nobles achieved this privilege, which reached its peak in the new empire. The ritual lasted 70 days and began 4 days after death, in the highest secrecy. The mummification process was quite unpleasant. First, a hook had to be passed through the nose of the deceased to remove the brain. The body was then rinsed and cleaned with palm wine. It was then filled with sachets of aromatic herbs and scented resins before being covered with a vegetable balm. The heart was the only thing left in place. They left the heart because it is the organ of knowledge. No one could be buried without a heart. After 15 days of evisceration, the body was placed in a tank full of natron, a kind of salt, and then dried in the sun. The operation lasted a total of 40 days. The objective was to dehydrate the body. The mummy was wrapped in linen. If you were rich, you had access to the best linen, and if you were poor, you had poor quality linen. It took a fortnight to wrap the body. 20 layers of bandages were necessary, that is, hundreds of meters of cloth. Between layer and layer, the assistants put protective amulets to mend the body. When they finished all that, after 70 days, you were already a mummy. Then there was a ceremony with the family present and then they buried you. During the last night, already underground, the deceased will begin his journey to the furthest away. Everything we know about mummification has been documented by Egyptologists thanks to excavations like this. Mummification is no longer a mystery today. We Egyptologists know all your secrets. Also, if someone wants to be mummified, just call me. We have 15 weeks of excavations. This January morning, Zahi has again called our expert in paleoradiology, Dr. Sahar. But Hawass has an idea. Lower the X-ray scanner to 11 meters underground. What are we going to do today with the X-rays? What's your plan? Do you have any plans? Yes, I've gone to the well and it's full of coffins. I have checked it and I think there is room for the scanner to pass through. Well, then, do we go down into the pit today and X-ray the coffin before moving it? Yes, we can. Zahn does not shrink in the face of technical adversities. And Dr. Sahar will do everything possible to fulfill her purpose. Direct X-ray of a coffin more than 10 meters underground. An electric cable is installed near the area to plug in the portable X-ray scanner. Dr. Hawass is the first to come down. In the meantime, Zahim shows Dr. Sahar the 2 coffins of the little nicho. Correct, Dr. Sahar. The one on the left has inscriptions. It's beautiful. Yes. And the one on the right looks sealed with plaster. Perhaps the mummy is in good condition. Slowly, carefully. Under millennia of dust, a woman's face finally appears. It seems to me that she's a woman. She's a female figure. This woman must still be inside, as the coffin is well preserved and sealed. But the 2 scientists prefer to leave it there, as the movements can be a risk to the mummy, if it is inside. It could damage the mummy, it could break it, so we immortalize the state in which we find the mummy before moving it. Bring the Hawass X-ray machine is impatient. Below ground, the scan is done just like outside the well. Immediately, the first images leave no room for doubt. Do you see anything, Dr. Sahar? Yes, Dr. Zahir. What? There's a mummy inside. This is the coffin and this is the mummy. And this is the head, the mummy's skull. Looks like a woman? Was I right? Yes, I was right. Well, she's a woman, she was right. The exterior of the coffin matches its contents. A wealthy woman from the Low period. An interesting detail for archaeologists, since sometimes the tombs were opened, the coffins emptied and then reused. A gesture that was not considered in reality a profanation. The tombs could be reused for lack of money. But there was also the idea of getting connected with the power and importance of the people who were there before us. X-rays have given enough information to scientists, and against all predictions they prefer not to open the coffin for fear of breaking it. But we're not going to open this coffin, Dr. Sahar. I think we should let this woman rest in peace. We leave the coffin, we don't open it. But Zahi has already seen that the second coffin is in excellent condition. Perfect. Oh, how good. This one doesn't tend to open it. As it gets cleaned up, the gods and the deceased's features appear as if by magic art. Drawn nearly 3 years ago, they give very valuable clues about the contents of the coffin. The two parts of the coffin are made of solid wood, sealed with powder plaster. The coffin was laid here 600 years before our era. I've been an archaeologist for 45 years, but it's the first time I've ever come down into a well and opened a sealed coffin. It's very exciting. Dr. Hawass is excited about the turn the mission has taken. Opening an Adabu inside his tomb is absolutely unique. My heart trembles. Often suspense.it is likely that the mummy is still there, but there is nothing certain in Egyptology. If the mummification was done incorrectly, only bones will remain. It is a great moment in life. Discover the secrets of this mummy. After a few minutes, finally appears the contents of the thigh. A mummy dressed in a painted tunic. The state of conservation is spectacular. It is a precious woman mummy. The decoration of the bust, those pretty blue drawings, are to make her look beautiful in the most distant place. The particular decoration of the sails is an important clue. This is something that is seen very often from the 26th dynasty. It is a typical phenomenon of the late period and is fascinating because opening a coffin and seeing a mummy in that beautiful dress is fabulous. After photographing and measuring it, the mummy will return to its niche to prevent it from deteriorating in the open. This latest discovery illustrates the incredible attraction of the necropolis of Saqqara up to the Lower Age. At that time, the capital Thebes and its necropolis were located 600 kilometers further south. Memphis was an international port in Greco-Roman times, so there was easy access to be buried and enjoy the aura of the first rulers. After this extraordinary underground operation, whose images will travel around the world, excavations continue at the site. Drive. Hawass wants to speed up the analysis of the coffins, which contain abundant information. Archaeology is an amazing job, because it allows us to understand everything about the ancient Egyptians through their remains. Every day we discover new things about them thanks to the amount of information they left behind. But their analysis is not always easy. Even Dr. Hawass knows it from his own experience. Days after going down to the well, Tauri wants to show our radiologist, Dr. Sahar, a coffin that has come up from a small burial well. Bukhamit's coffin dates from the New Kingdom, so it is about 3,500 years old. If there are valuable amulets inside the mummy, it will confirm that it belonged to a wealthy family. The result of this first X-ray is a real surprise to the two scientists. Dr. Zahi, this is very interesting. It's a woman's skull. A woman? Yes. But at first glance, the fineness of the skull, its rounded shape, the shape of the chin, the angle of the jaw, all correspond to the body of a woman. The coffin bearing the name Bukhamit does not contain her body, but that of a woman. The skull and the presence of female jewels seem to confirm it. It would be an extraordinary discovery, as it poses a new mystery to elucidate. Okay, shoot. Okay. The team decides to continue with the scan to make sure. Fascinating. Can you go down? Then we can look at the pelvis, which is an important element. Let's see if it's wide. Is it a woman, then? Yeah, look, Dr. Zai. Yeah, but the pelvis is very wide. And have you seen how many rings? Why are the rings there? Because they are the hands. How can a woman's body end up in a coffin prepared for a man? To Dr. Zai, the enigma has only one explanation. But his wife died before him, and instead of buying another, he buried her in his own. That's the only possible explanation. Bukhamit had not foreseen that his wife would die before him, at the age of 40. So he gave her the coffin he had prepared for his own burial. A gesture full of love and generosity. The coffin of the true Bukhamit should be in the same well. Every clue uncovered during the scan is a very valuable element in reconstructing the puzzle of this family that must have belonged to the nobility of the New Kingdom. I feel like a detective. I use science to understand stories that happened thousands and thousands of years ago. Thanks to diagnostic imaging and archaeology too, this story shows how the ancient Egyptians began to prepare their death very soon, while still alive. But Bukhamit will remain a mystery. His remains were never found. So far 52 burial shafts and the same number of coffins more than 3 years old have been found, which have attracted worldwide interest. But behind all these tons of sand and remains there will surely be more stories to tell. Egyptologists will continue to make incredible discoveries in Saqqara for decades to come. I will have discovered only 10% of what is hidden around Teddy's tomb. We have been able to contribute to the great book of the necropolis thanks to unpublished discoveries that tell how this disappeared civilization lived. A mother and her son intertwined in the tomb. A man who donates his coffin to his wife. Children buried in abundance as adults. Near the wonders of Giza, Saqqara is a true history book whose content seems to be inexhaustible.